In this episode of Coffee with the Chair, Defending Democracy, Spokane Democrats discuss the threats to our system of free and fair elections, representative government, and the individual liberties Americans are entitled to, as outlined in the Constitution and all of its amendments.
Actually, let's get to that, because
Okay.
I sat in for the risk limiting audit, the RLA, I'm going to say, because it's a mouthful, and it was fascinating. How did Spokane become a cutting edge county for RLAs?
Well, risk limiting audits are relatively new in the elections administration world, and it's all about ensuring that every ballot was counted properly. So this is a statistical sampling process that takes in the entire population of ballots to prove that every ballot, whether it should have been in the race or shouldn't have been in the race, was properly counted for that race. So it's a statistical sample taken of the entire population. So out of 100 and roughly 46,000 ballots, our sample size was 71. And so we go and we pull the physical ballot itself, and then that's compared to how that particular ballot was counted. And so it proves that it is the ballot it was supposed to be. That's one thing. Do they match? And then second, was it counted properly? So Spokane County became the first one to use that as an official audit step in the elections administration process. We've done a couple of pilots now, as have many other counties, but we chose to go ahead in this election and make it official. So the ballot, if the ballot doesn't have the race, the ballot shouldn't have a vote for that race. So risk limiting audits are not recounts. They're not recounting the race. What they're doing is they're testing the entire population for if individual ballots were tabulated properly.
We need to make sure that our personal rights are protected. All of them, not just the Second Amendment. All of our rights need to be protected. We need to make sure our schools are properly funded, because right now, school funding depends on, well, how high are the property taxes in your county?
Right, or even in your school district.
Or in your school district, and that is based on the property values. And really, children on the west side, the per capita spending on education is significantly higher over on the west side than it is here. And that translates in not quite as good an education. And I just believe that when our children are well educated, we all win.
Absolutely.
We need more nurses, we need more doctors, we need more engineers, and we need a good educational basis for that. And so it's really not fair that it depends on the zip code you live in, how well your school is maintained and funded. It's not fair. We need to fix that.
But you've taken steps to make the Spokane County Board of Commissioners more accountable to their constituents. Can you tell me about that journey?
Yeah, it's been a long time journey. With a group of concerned and active citizens, we began to entertain this idea of what if we had a county commission that truly represented our growing population and met our growing needs. 3 county commissioners, over 500,000 people in our county, just doesn't seem to make sense. For me, I came at it too, as we were voting at that time in a primary by district and then a general countywide. And so if you were in the part of the county in that particular election where you weren't actually in that district, you had no say who came out of the primary. So I really thought there was an element of voters being disenfranchised too. So it was a long journey. We introduced multiple bills. There was a bipartisan recognition that our county commission should grow to reflect our growing population. If you look at our peer counties or larger, King County, Pierce County, Clark County, Snohomish County, they all have a form of government that's more representative. And so, I think that's why it was called. We called it the Responsible Representation Act.
It's not working for most. It's really reflecting the views of a few who want to have control and authority over other people. We're seeing that when it comes to abortion rights. and the rollback on those that we're seeing across the country.
And reproductive rights generally, and possibly even challenging access to contraception.
Absolutely.
Which
So
is
this
horrifying.
goes beyond whether or not an abortion is appropriate and when, but also access to reproductive health care and birth control, and for all people. And being able, trying to dictate what folks can do with their bodies when they're not harming themselves and they're not harming anyone else, to me, that's too intrusive. That's not where we want our government. We fought really hard to protect our privacy rights and keep government out of our private affairs. It is constitutionally protected, and there's just absolutely no reason why the minority viewpoint on any issue should control the majority of people in our country. This has to be a medical decision that's made between the person who's pregnant, their medical providers, their family, and their support system, and our government needs to stay out of that. We do have these constitutional protections, and we have, unfortunately, a Supreme Court and justices who went back on their very own word, who lied to our faces about upholding long-established precedent. We've never seen a rollback of rights like this. We've only seen a furtherance of rights, like with our Voting Rights Act, for women to vote, for Black people to vote. We've expanded voting rights in our state here in Washington, and so when we're seeing people actively wanting to roll back the ability to access the ballot, that's when you know that they are wanting the minority and the few to control what the majority of us are doing. Our own city council did a resolution that said we will not participate in investigations of people who come to our state for medical services, because that is not a place our government needs to be. So we need to be aware of the silence when it comes to the far-right extremism, and the silence when it comes to upholding our constitutional rights, whether they're enumerated or unenumerated.
I remember this specifically. I was filling out a questionnaire for Planned Parenthood, and one of the questions was about, do I believe that I support services for a minor without having her parents notified? And so in my background, I'm thinking, well, why would I support this? So I picked up the phone and I called the number on the survey or the questionnaire, and I got this really great human being on the other line. And I said, walk me through this. Why would I support this? She said, Ted, she said, not every family is like your family. So if we have a 13-year-old young lady come in here who has been raped by her mom's new boyfriend, and she goes to her mother and says, this happened, and the mother says, well, you must have encouraged it or led him on, get out of my house. And now she's on the street. And a light went off. And I'm like, I get it, and I can get behind this, and thank you. People don't have to live their lives the way I think they should. Everybody has the right to be on their own path, to follow their journey, to believe and act and love and think the way they do.